Alright, hello everyone and welcome to WWE Discussion. I'm your host and WWE enthusiast, Dougie Doug. In today's episode, I'm going to be discussing Monday Night Raw, September 11, 2023 edition. So this was another quality night of professional wrestling for Monday Night Raw. Rhea Ripley and Miguel Rodriguez would battle in the main event for the Women's Championship. However, the ending of the match, I should say, will get talked about more because the ending featured the return of Nia Jackson. Cody Rhodes continues to have an uncertain future. Drew McIntyre defeated Xavier Woods in a memorable but short match. Gunther celebrated his victory and also becoming the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion in WWE history. However, that celebration would be crashed, as most celebrations are. So WWE continued to deliver has continued to deliver quality episodes of Raw, though the future for some of the top names on Monday Night Raw remains uncertain. And with that, we'll go ahead and get right into the action, starting with Drew McIntyre's slow turn over to the villain side. And WWE has been playing it slow with this turn, and that has been for the better. Raw needs another top bad guy aside from the Judgment Day, and the most obvious choice would be McIntyre. He's a top name who has been treated as a secondary performer over the past year, mainly idling in the tag team division between alliances with Riddle and Sheamus. However, it seems his current storyline with the New Day and Viking Raiders will not end with Riddle and McIntyre as a good guy team. Now, who knows what the future of Riddle is? He had some sort of incident outside of the ring, and so TBD on what happens with that team right there. But with every passing week, this guy continues to grow more frustrated. And not only has he been frustrated with the New Day, but he's also now frustrated that Jey Uso is on Monday Night Raw. So McIntyre, it seems like a foregone conclusion that he will turn, and I think we all expect that to happen. But it's been set up well, and I think when you set it up well, it's easy to commit to the moment because of how well built it has been, or built over time. It's been well built over time, and it will make sense and does not require a long promo to explain, which sometimes does work, sometimes they don't. WWE should consider using this turn as a template for future character stories, as it is better to build a moment than go for a shock and awe with a sudden change. Not that shock and awe is a bad thing or that it doesn't work, but I think in the case of Nia Jax making her return in the main event, that was a shock and awe moment that just did not work. Edge returning at the Royal Rumble, shock and awe moment that does work. So give or take, it just kind of depends on the performer and what exactly the performer is doing. But I think with Drew McIntyre's slow turn, this is better, like I said, as a build-up rather than just a shock and awe sort of thing. Cody Rhodes. So he got a decisive win over Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam, but since then he hasn't really had any direction. He's kind of just been spinning his wheels. There's a lot of talk and speculation that perhaps he will be the one traded to SmackDown so that he can finish his story with Roman Reigns. Problem is that there's no talk about him competing against Roman Reigns until WrestleMania 40, which is quite a bit a ways away. So you have a guy just kind of currently spinning his wheels with no direction, but he's still the top good guy on Raw. But you look at what he's been doing since he beat Lesnar at SummerSlam, you wouldn't think he's the top guy. Instead, he's been spending the past month with no direction beyond occasional interactions with the Judgment Day, playing support character to Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens and their feud with the faction. And his promo time recently has been focused on Jey Uso, but there hasn't really been too much interaction between the two. WWE could have used this time, or WWE should be using this time that Cody Rhodes where Cody Rhodes has nothing going on, to pair him up with somebody and give that person the time to work with a top name. And if Rhodes was fully committed to the Judgment Day rivalry, perhaps you could do a one-on-one program with Finn Balor or Damian Priest. If that was the case, if that was what we're doing, it'd be a different matter. But instead, he fought off Dominic Mysterio and JD McDonough, but neither one of those guys would be a serious rival, especially since Rhodes has already beaten Mysterio one-on-one. So I don't know exactly what they're doing, Cody Rhodes. I don't know if a Judgment Day feud is a good thing for him to be involved in. Again, I think you can take some of those guys that don't get utilized on TV as often, pair them with Rhodes and let them work with him. Let Rhodes just kind of wrestle, win, build up some wins. Just do something than just kind of spinning his wheels. And Tomaso Ciampa, looks like he's going to be set up for a feud with Gunther, and if this is the case, this is a long overdue championship opportunity for him. Now, Chad Gable isn't going away. Chad Gable is still going to be competing for the IC title. Granted, it would be nice if they could set up Gable with like a redemption sort of story where he lost, but he's motivated by the tears on his daughter's face to build his way back up, to scratch and claw his way back and earn that number one earn that title shot. But whether or not they actually do that, we shall see. But for now, though, it looks like Ciampa might step in and place Gable to feud with Gunther. But Gunther, officially the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion in WWE history, and probably the top bad guy on Raw. So feuding with the Ring General is a serious opportunity for Ciampa. And since, the Blackheart has been on the main roster, he struggled to find his footing. A serious hip injury did keep him off television for 8 months, but even before that, he wasn't really finding his way on TV all that often. And recently, he had been talking about teaming with Johnny Gargano again, who's had even less television time as of late. First, though, it looks like he might be challenging Gunther, which is an important crossroads for him. He's 38 and he's got some injuries. He's dealt with some serious injuries, and who knows how many more chances he might get. Like this match with Gunther is a chance for Ciampa to put on his biggest match on the main roster. He needs time to shine and to build to the match as well. More importantly, he needs to make these minutes count. It's time for Ciampa to show the guy who was once the top guy, the Blackheart, in NXT. He just needs an opportunity like this. It's not that I don't think he won't deliver, but it's just that he needs to be put in an opportunity like this. Be an interesting give or take too, because again, Gable's vying for another IC title match, but Ciampa appears to be set up for an opportunity as well. Granted, Ciampa wasn't the one who won the 6-man tag team match on Raw. That was Gable, but it certainly would be an interesting idea to put Ciampa in front first. And then we have Nia Jackson's return. So I think this is a great question to ask here, which is, what does she bring to the women's division? And if you ask Bleacher Report, well, they say nothing. So to go off what they were saying, she is a former Raw Women's Champion, but to bring her back and put her in title contention right away, that might be a mistake. WWE has taken a slow approach with most call-ups and returns in the past few years, as many have had to earn their way up the card. And the women's division is talented, but many have been treated as secondary acts despite their talent. Jax has not proved, Jax in her last one didn't really prove much other than she has anything but. Well, she didn't prove that she has anything but size on the other women in WWE. Rhea Ripley could be feuding with some of those other names that are being treated as secondary acts, but instead it looks like she might be feuding with Jax, who probably shouldn't be getting a shot at the gold so early in her return. She should be brought in first to help deal with the women's division depth, but even in that regard, WWE is already failing to use the good wrestlers that they have. So Jax probably will just take up time from many others who have been deserving of more spotlight recently, and the pressure's on too, because she's got to showcase why she was put in this spot right away. Otherwise, it looks like she's just going to add nothing to the division. So in conclusion, this week's episode of Raw had a few really good matches and moments, but despite it being a quality episode of Raw, it was largely forgettable as a whole. 3-hour show only having 6 matches isn't necessarily that absurd when you consider that most of the premium live events are 3 hours with 6 or 7 bouts. But when a couple of those matches are 5 minutes or less, there's going to be a lot of filler. The 6-man tag match and the main event were highlights, but Woods vs. McIntyre and the tag match between Judgment Day and Owens and Jey Uso were both fun in their own way. If this show had one or two more matches and not so many interviews, promos, and video packages, it would have been much more enjoyable. And with that will conclude this episode of WWE Discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like button down below.